And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Mix. Man, Chris, what an exciting week we have in front of us right now.
We do.
A bunch of exciting stuff to talk about at the Mix today, but also some big stuff happening throughout this week, including, Chris, this coming Wednesday, Valentine's Day. Got any big plans for you and Sherry?
Well, you know what? I'm kind of a romantic, JJ, so I don't want to disclose those right here on Facebook.
That's right. That's right. Josh over there's having fun with the sound effects. We didn't know he was going to do that. Over easy. What about you, man? Big plans for Valentine's Day?
We're trying to find a babysitter.
Trying to find a babysitter.
Have one soon.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of strikeouts.
So. I've got a good tip for you, though. I mean, you want to save a little bit of money. Now, you got to get her to buy into this whole idea. Save a little bit of money. You go to the store. You stand in front of the Valentine's Day cards. You pick out the one that you think she wants to read. You give it to her. Let her read it, and then you put it back and save $5.
This is the one I was gonna buy you. and then on Thursday we'll go buy some candy for each other.
Exactly.
50% off.
Exactly.
Last thing we need is more candy, though. Let's be honest. But Chris, on top of that, we had some exciting things we talked about. Both at church this past Sunday, but also some big things happening to the Mix. We have a new set coming next week.
Yes.
So a whole new set design. It'll be a little bit of change of pace. We've been just rock and roll the Mix for a while. So new kind of Mix set design coming next week. We're excited about that. But let's talk about some bigger things coming up. Chris, yesterday we talked about something we brought up for the first time at Status, a brand new partnership with an incredible agency in our area.
Right. We're starting a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and we basically what's going to happen is either starting at the end of this month or the beginning of next month, we're going to begin building a home in Auburndale for a family that Habitat's already identified. In fact, this family is just really going and getting it. They've already done all their volunteer work that they're supposed to do. Obviously, they'll be helping with the house, but any of the extra stuff. And so we're going to actually, from start to finish, we're going to be there helping. And so that's going to take a lot of people. It's going to take a lot of weekends. And so anybody who wants to help out with that, let us know. And you can either message us on Facebook or let us know your email address, and we'll get you all the information. But it's just going to be a great opportunity because not only by the end of this will we have built a home in Auburndale, but we've already built a bunch of homes in Honduras, which leads us to the next thing.
Next big thing we talked about. We actually, up to this date, we've built 10 homes in Honduras.
I've been working on my transition.
I like that. That was smooth. We've been practicing these things.
I like to point them out, too.
Yeah. My transition was so smooth. I want to tell you how smooth that transition was. I got you. But we've been building homes in Honduras for some time now. 8 years now. We've built homes, over 10 homes over those 8 years. And this year we hope to build 2 homes. We're going to be there November 14th to 21st. We're looking to take an incredible team of individuals down there. And again, just like with Habitat, you don't have to have a particularly strong set of skills. It's helpful, but it's not necessary. We're going to teach you the skills that you need. So if you're interested in going out and serving, trying to build up God's kingdom, whether it's here locally through Habitat or through Honduras, we have opportunities for you. Now, our Honduras informational meeting is happening after church on Sunday, February 25th. That's a week and 6 days from today. So immediately after the second service, hang out. It won't be a long meeting, probably 15 or 20 minutes. But at that time, we're talking about costs and plans and what you need to start to do to prepare for that. By showing up, you're not saying you're going on the trip. You're just saying you're interested. So if you're interested in joining us, finding out more information about Honduras 2018, we'd love for you to join us at that informational meeting right after the service on February 25th.
All right. So, so part of our goal here at Ridgepoint is to be more connected in the community. And so one of the ways that we do that is actually through something that the students do through Rec Serve. And actually that's coming up this week. So over easy, tell us a little bit about Rec Serve.
Yeah, man, Rec Serve is pretty awesome. Awesome thing we do. We get to go down to the Auburndale Rec Center. And we actually get to bring some food and drinks for the guys and girls down there. And we give them a little devotion, little message. And they play basketball and games and hang out with them. It's a really good chance to reach out to the community, love on the kids down there, and then also hopefully continue to make bridges and connections to where we can bring them back here on Sunday to hang out with us here for church and youth group. So it's a really fun thing that's actually open for everybody to come to.
Very cool, very cool. So I know it's kind of youth-led, youth-driven. Does that mean you have to be a teenager to participate in it?
Absolutely not. We're the youth. We're kind of leading and facilitating it, but it is church-wide to come out and help out. We'd love for anybody to come hang out with us on the first and third Thursday of every month.
That's right. So if you're interested in helping out with Rec Serve, this is a continual thing that we're doing. Just email Josh at ridgepointchurch.org. If you're interested in Honduras or Habitat, let us know that. We'll get the information to you about all of those things. We're excited to be able to be involved in our community.
Yeah. So let's get into a little recap of yesterday of the message. We're actually in week 2 of the series that we're calling Runaway Grace. And it's basically, it's based in the book of Philemon or Philemon, or there's a whole debate about that.
Yeah, there is.
How do you say it?
Philemon.
Philemon.
It's got a long I sound.
Right.
The only difference.
So anyway, it's this letter that Paul writes to him, and he writes this letter actually on behalf of Onesimus. Mm-hmm. And so yesterday we kind of got a little bit deeper into that and talking about kind of the why behind why Paul writes this letter. Mm-hmm. And kind of as we get into the why of it, we have to kind of understand that there was some kind of, even though it's not really stated there, that there must have been some kind of discussion between Paul and Onesimus about, here's what's happened. How do I fix it? What do I do? And what ought I do? Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of the question. So why is that difficult? That what ought I do? Why is that that question so difficult for us today?
Sure, and that's a tough one, because I think most of us want to believe we live life by the principle that I'm asking the question, what ought I do, or what should I do in that situation?
Right.
When it comes to bigger life decisions, like if we're talking about maybe a potential move or potential job change, sometimes we seek out counsel for that. Mm-hmm. But other times it seems like the answer is a lot simpler than that. Mm-hmm. And we have a tendency to gravitate, whenever the answer seems simple to us, we gravitate towards what our feelings dictate at that moment.
Right.
The problem is if again, I used the analogy yesterday, if someone cuts us off in traffic, our emotions are such that we're so mad that we're in a blind rage, and our emotions dictate we should act a certain way, which at that time seems really, really rational. Mm-hmm. If we were to fast forward an hour or two later, it won't seem as rational, but in that moment, our feelings make it feel really rational. Or maybe there's a situation that arose and there's bitterness, or there's anger, or there's depression, or any of these emotions that get in the way. And so because of that, we have a tendency to gravitate towards feelings or gravitate towards the way that our emotions dictate at that point that we're going to respond. So I have a natural tendency to do that. But the second thing I do, if I don't gravitate towards feelings, I have a tendency to gravitate towards asking the question, what can I get away with? Mm-hmm. And we talked about those two questions yesterday, is what do my feelings dictate, and what can I get away with? And I think that for most of us, that's kind of how we live life. Mm-hmm. We don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get a speeding ticket. Mm-hmm. So I figured out at some point in my past, someone told me, you can go 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, and you're not going to get a ticket. So I'm not asking the question, what ought I do? The speed limit's put there because the people who are in charge say, we think this is the safest limit for everybody to drive.
Right.
But everyone thinks they're the exception to the rule. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not asking the question, what ought I do? I'm asking the question, what can I get away with without getting in really big trouble, without getting a ticket and a fine and all those things? Mm-hmm. And so there's sometimes that our decisions seem very simple when they're not. Mm-hmm. They're really groundbreaking decisions. For Paul says, I would prefer to keep Onesimus here. And honestly, most of us, if we're in that situation, we'd look at this and say, Onesimus, you might have been a little bit wrong, but let's be honest, Philemon, he's a lot wrong. Mm-hmm. And so don't worry about it. Just stay here. All that stuff will just get smoothed over later on. And I think had he done that, most of us would have said, yeah, it's probably not a bad decision. Mm-hmm. But Paul isn't so much concerned with Philemon. He is, but he's more concerned with Onesimus. I want to make sure you do things right. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure, and that's where we kind of got into the big idea that, man, if I want to make sure you're doing things right, then it's not necessarily up to the other person and how they view right and what they've done, but I want to focus on what you're doing. And so really part of Paul's discussion that we don't see is a discussion he has with Onesimus And then the letter is Paul's discussion with Philemon. And at both of them, he takes them head on and says, I want to make sure that your response is the right response.
So yesterday's big idea was that my ability to do right is never subject to someone else's desire for right. And you kind of use the analogy of marriage. Why is, I mean, other than the fact that it is Valentine's Day this week,
true.
Why is marriage such a great analogy for that point?
I was waiting for Josh to use the sound effect when he said Valentine's Day all over.
Not see that coming.
He's like, "Whoa, Chris!" It's because the relationship that Paul's describing between Onesimus and Philemon is a very delicate relationship, and so whenever we look to apply Scripture into our lives, we're looking for what are the relationships where the truth that God lays out in this fragile relationship affects us the most.
Right.
And without a doubt, the relationship that affects all of us, if we're married, that affects all of us the most, is that relationship with our spouse. Now, I mentioned that maybe it isn't a spouse, maybe it's a child, or maybe it's some other meaningful relationship that you're really close to, but I think the marriage analogy is there. And because, and I mentioned this as well yesterday, because a lot of times, whether it's in preparation for marriage, which I love the premarital counseling, we have 3 sessions we go through. I love that. That's that time of kind of getting to know each other a little bit better. Or whether it's after marriage. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, we have some hiccups in our relationship. Let's go get some counsel. Let's go get some advice. Let's talk through things. And I love being able to have those discussions. But we have a tendency to view the other person, especially in that situation, as, well, they're the enemy in this because there's friction. And I think I'm right. I think they're wrong. And so because of that, we have a tendency to look at it and say, well, if they're not going to put 100% effort in, I'm not going to, even though I know that I should. And so one of the things that I find valuable in that situation is for me to say, okay, let's you and I, and whether I'm talking to the husband or I'm talking to the wife, I said, let's you and I talk, and as long as I am talking to you, I'm going to give you advice on here's what your action or reaction should probably be in that situation. It's not based on whether or not the other person responds. And in that situation, I've had a lot of people who I've challenged and said, hey, this is how you should react. And if they looked at it just as, okay, I'm looking for truth and people to speak truth in my life, they'd say, yeah, I agree with that. But in the volatility of their situation, they look at that and say, I'm not sure. And a lot of times they walk away and say, that seems really hard. Like, I want the outcome. I want my marriage to be not just to survive, but to succeed. Like, I want to see that. And I know for it to succeed, I have to put all my effort into it. But if they're not willing to give a considerable amount of effort themselves, then I'm not going to do it. And so I say, well, here's what you do to give 100%. And inevitably, because people try to be spiritual, especially in front of pastoral staff or whatever, they'll walk away and say, well, that seems tough. Let me go pray about it and see what God's Spirit leads me to do. And I feel like saying as lovingly as I can, shut up. like God's Spirit has already told us what we should do in that situation. And I'm not trying to be mean or like simple about the response. But sometimes we try to over-spiritualize our situation and say, well, maybe God's Spirit's going to lead me to do something else. When He's already told us, no, you put everything you can into that relationship because your ability to do right is not subject to the other person's desire for right. They might or might not want the relationship to last. You can't control them. All you can do is control what you are called to do. And each one of us in every relationship is called to do something.
Right.
So Paul looks at Onesimus, who he loves, and he says, I don't particularly like giving you this advice. But if I'm going to live by the idea of what ought I do, then I'm going to challenge you to go back and make things right. And I don't know how Philemon's going to respond to this. I don't know what's going to happen. You could lose your life because of this. But your ability to do right is not subject to his desire for right. So I think the marriage analogy is a profound one for our generation.
So, as we wrap up today, let's talk about one other thing. I think that really actually kind of goes along with what you just talked about. That, you know, right now we're kind of in the midst of we're getting headed into 2018. You know, we're already a month and a half in, and you know, we're looking to try to equip people to do those right things.
Right.
When, you know, to give them the abilities that they need to do that. And we feel like one of the best ways that we can do that is in our groups. And you know, and I want to go just a step further and say it's not just about doing right things, because we can, you know, we can read the Bible on our own and we can study it, and there's all kinds of studies that we can do out there. But to be honest, I think one of the greatest benefits to our groups that I've seen, especially in this past week, is when the bottom falls out, you know, when life gets hard and things fall apart, we need people to step around us and just, you know, lift us up. And that's one of our goals for our groups, is that that's what our groups would be about, that they would step in and legitimately help where they can. And I've loved being able to see that happen this week. We see it quite often throughout, you know, I see it right in my group right now, but we see it in groups all across our church all the time. And I would say that's one of the greatest benefits that we kind of sometimes overlook, is that there's a group of people that are going to step in and help you when the bottom falls out. And so if you're interested in getting in one of our groups, you can email me, message me. It's chris@richpointchurch.org. Call the church, ask for me. I'll be glad to help you. We have an online group as well. If, you know, there's just not a time of the day that works best for you, we have an online group that's going to be getting kind of ramped back up here in the next week or so. We would love for you guys to be a part of that. So let us know. We want you to be growing together with a group of people that are headed in the same direction. So
life is truly better together. I'm looking forward to our group meets on Monday nights.
Yeah, so does ours.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to having that group tonight, to be able to hang out and eat together, but then also celebrate a study. We're launching out a new marriage study tonight. So we're really excited about that.
Right.
Over easy, did we miss anything over there? Any feedback? Anything we got to cover?
No, man, you guys didn't miss it. We got a little bit of feedback though. Doug said he wanted a ball with Over Easy. I gotta say, Doug, come on. 4:30 on Thursdays, man. That's when we go do it. So 4:30. Come on, Doug. You can come all this. That'd be awesome. Also, Dustin said that, man, Chris, we need to follow up on your romantic plans.
Ooh, man. So Dustin,
maybe next week. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. After that, little Chris said he doesn't kiss and tell, so maybe nothing. We don't want to know all that information. So hey, thanks for checking out the mix. We're here most every Monday. Next week it'll be on Tuesday because we have a holiday in there. So next week on Tuesday, so you don't want to miss out on that. And next week, hopefully, Dustin, I'm just pointing out, there might be a new set designed. So with that being said, have a wonderful week. We'll see you this coming Sunday, 9 and 10:45.